Hello MLB Showdown Nation, this is your guru Colby Talfis, and this is our ninth part in our series on how to play MLB Showdown. We have gotten everything done that you need to know to actually play an MLB Showdown game. Now we're going to get to the fun part, which is actually the ability to create your own team. But first we're just going to do a quick recap on the first part of our series. We talked about the first roll of an at-bat sequence, which is done by the defense. That's called the pitch. That determines which of the two charts we are going to use, the batters or the pitchers. The second part is about the second roll of an at-bat sequence, which is called the swing, and that generates a result based on which chart we ended up picking for the pitch. The third part we ended up talking about how the batter and runners advance on hits and walks. And then for the fourth part, we talked about how batters and runners advance on outs. For our fifth part of our series, we talked about the defense and how that impacts MLB Showdown and the different ranges for each player. For the sixth part, we talked about the three different types of substitutions you can make offensively in MLB Showdown: the pinch hitter, the pinch runner, and the defensive replacement. And for the seventh part, we talked about how pitchers become tired and your different options for relief pitchers and how to manage that. For the seventh part, we talked about how to actually go through your order in a systematic way and make sure that you don't bat out of order. How do you do everything properly so you can properly play the game without running into any sort of difficulties and having any fights over a card game. Now comes the fun part, the ability to play general manager, the ability to actually pick your own team. First, we're going to talk about the mechanics of how do you pick your own team. MLB Showdown teams are 20 people compared to a normal Major League Baseball roster, which is 25. We'll go through the different breakdown. First, as you see in front of me, you have our normal 8 position players, which we've talked about previously in that they play the three outfield positions, the 4 infield positions, and your catcher. In NL rules, these are all the players that make up your lineup. So, for this, we will put them in our lineup, which is not how I would actually bat them if I had all these players. But we have our 8 players who make up the lineup. You may want to lay them out like I just did so you know you have a person at every single position. In National League rules, you do not have a DH. You end up with a blank spot here in the lineup, which our starting pitcher will fill when he is pitching and gets pinch hit for and all those other things. But as far as lineup is concerned, in National League rules, you have only 8 players. For American League rules, in the instance where we have a DH, where we're using David Ortiz, you have 9 position players, including your DH, who, though he doesn't play defense, does count in your lineup. So that could be either 8 or 9. For this example, we're going to imagine this is a National League. This is a National League lineup, so there's only 8 players. So we still have 12 more players to fill in. We then have our starting rotation, which is a 4-man rotation in MLB Showdown. So you must carry 4 starters. For any kind of season play, this is going to be your 4 starting pitchers who cannot rotate order. So that gets us to 12. You have 4 starters. They must pitch sequentially. And that is your 4 there, which means that we have 8 spots in a National League lineup for both bench and bullpen. And there is no mandatory amount of bench players or bullpen players. So in this instance, I picked 3 bench players, who we'll put right here. And 5 bullpen players. So we have 8 plus 4 plus 5 is 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 3 is going to be 15, plus 5 is 20. The only other limitation that you need to come up with is how you are going to handle the fake salary cap. We have not talked about this thus far, but every player, whether hitter or pitcher, as you can see, has a little thing in the bottom corner underneath their control and on base and their fielding and speed. That is their point total. Normal leagues have a 5,000 point total, which is enough to where you cannot be good at everything. If you're playing in a salary cap league or a point cap league, this is going to be important. If you're playing all-star games, this is not important. There are also other instances where you do not get to pick your team. These instances would be where you play a single-year constructed team. Say you are going to play with the 2011 Yankees. That team has already been constructed. You do not worry about their points. You don't get to make any of their decisions. But for this is how players traditionally pick their lineups. You have to establish what kind of rules you're playing under and all that. Also, another variation that's interesting is if you are playing in some sort of tournament fashions, playoffs and such, there are instances where tournaments only require you to have 3 starting pitchers, and your 4th starter is could be an extra reliever or a bench player. But in leagues that have a regular season and a postseason, you are not allowed to drop your 4th starting pitcher. He merely becomes a member of the bullpen under different rules. These are all things that you need to establish beforehand, but this is the actual creation of a 20-man team. At other parts in the blog, we focus more on how to maximize your 5,000 points in a point total, so we won't go into that. But that is the process of picking your 20-man roster. Hope you guys have had fun watching us, and now you have all the tools you need to pick your own teams and then go out and have fun and play some games. Hope this has been beneficial for you, and remember to play for the card.